guys, 681 Shadow. Welcome to our review of Boku no Hero Academia episode 31, which is titled Aftermath of the Hero Killer Stain. Now, before we get into this episode, be sure to, if you have not seen the episode, be sure to go watch it before you watch this review, as we will be talking about what happens in the episode. This was more of a laid-back episode, but there was a big piece towards the latter half of the episode, which is very important that I'll get into in this review. But to start off, it shows Midoriya, Todoroki, and Ida in the hospital, and they're recovering from their injuries. And the next morning, they get greeted by three people. They get greeted by Manuel, which is the hero that Ida was interning with. They get greeted by Gran Torino, and then the chief of police in I'm not sure if it was the chief of police in Hosu or just like in general in like a larger area. I would assume just Hosu though, only because they were in Hosu for the situation. But he ends up telling them that there's probably going to be there would be legal punishments based on the way they use their quirks to injure and the fact that they aren't pros yet and things like that. But because of the circumstances, he disagreed with that police decision, and he said whichever they would rather, the punishments or for them to not be recognized for taking out Stain. But then the person who would be recognized would be Endeavor, who was also there for the end of Stain. So they, in turn, obviously chose to give Endeavor the spotlight for that crime, which that was their best decision, so that they don't have to deal with like such a legal punishment. Because I think also Gran Torino was gonna receive some punishment as well because he was there with Stain, but definitely gave a boost to Endeavor's publicity overall, and that's really all to say about that part of the episode. But then it showed parts in the episode, some of the other internships, like Bakugo hating Vestigenius again. Then it shows how Kirishima sees the news, and he was like, so Midoriya's notification was an SOS. I'm so glad I reported it. So Kirishima was looking out for Midoriya, which is a pretty cool thing. But then of course him and Tetsu get scolded by Fourth Kind because they were late, and they're going on patrol. So then we have a scene with Ochako. She's on the phone with Midoriya before she's about to do some more training with Gunhead. And when they're about to hang up, when Gunhead says that they're about to start doing some more training, Gunhead mistakes Midoriya for her boyfriend, which is actually hilarious. And I love how like they both blush after the phone call. Not Midoriya, not because of Gunhead, but because he was like talking to a girl on the phone is amazing. And on the subject of girls, we see that Momo and Kendo are basically forced into a commercial for Uobami. but then after they see the commercial, the demo, on that, Uobami says the thing that they had been waiting to hear, like, since they got to the internship. Let's go on patrol. So they're finally doing something heroic, and they both get really happy, and they try to go be heroes. So next up, we see it goes back to the hospital. We see Midoriya going into the room after his conversation with Ochako, and then turns out Ida had been examined, like all of his injuries, and his left hand is severely injured. And Ida feels like that. It feels that that he wants to keep it that way, but kind of like as a scar until I forgot what he said. I forgot what he said for like until he wants it to be healed. Maybe like until he graduates or something like that, because of the things he wants. But I kind of like the idea that he's keeping it as a scar because he acted very rashly in the Stain fight, and he got injured in his left hand. And Midoriya and Ida, they make a pact that they're gonna get stronger together, and they both show their severely messed up the hands. And then Todoroki is over there, and he's just like, I kind of feel bad because whenever I'm involved, people get their hands messed up. Is that a curse? And then Midoriya and Ida just burst out laughing, and Todoroki calls himself the Hand Crusher, and they just had a really nice comedy scene. I actually didn't expect Todoroki to actually be that funny in this episode. It was really great because we've always seen him so serious, but then he says something that's actually hilarious. But the big piece of this episode, and I can't stress this enough, because this is going to be, because based on what based on what I've heard, this is going to be a big character that has been, we haven't seen him on camera on the show, but we now know his name, because a couple episodes back, when the police officer Sakauchi was telling All Might about how about the DNA test for the Nomus, about like the person who can transfer quirks. That plays a part into this, because Gran Torino goes to like a phone goes into like a phone booth thing, and calls All Might, and he's telling him kind of about what happened with Stain and things like that, and then he tells him that he tells All Might that he needs to tell Midoriya about the backstory to One for All, and your backstory, everything like that, because now that we know from these Nomus, All for One is on the move again, and it seems like All for One is very much has a tie. I feel like All for One may have a tie with One for All, because they're being because the past of One for All, and the existence of this new character All for One is it seems like they're very connected, and that this basically just tells us that All for One is the guy who is always on a voice call, sound only, to Shigaraki. And the episode ends off with a bunch of villains who have possibly found a connection between Stain and the League of Villains, and they're going to join the League of Villains, thus making them even stronger. So I feel like there's going to be some plot at some point with the League of Villains, because they were a bit in the shadows now, but then they're getting a bunch of these new recruits. So this is definitely going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Maybe we'll see maybe we'll see All for One sometime this season. I don't know, but that's going to be the end of this review. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode down in the comment section below. This wasn't as much of a thrilling episode. It was more of like a laid back episode with some it was more of like an info heavy episode rather than like a fight scene type shonen anime episode. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this review. Thank you all for watching. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe, and share, and I will see you all next time.